Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning. We're continuing in our series in the Lord's Prayer, and He's teaching us on how to pray. And we're on that particular line that talks about, "For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen." You see, He's the king of His kingdom. There was somebody, Satan, who thought that he could take the kingdom. He thought that he could usurp the kingdom from Jesus, but he was sadly mistaken. And sometimes he may look like he is ruling, but we all know that that is just a thing that is not really what it truly is. And we ended last time by talking about the fact that things aren't always as they appear to be. I want to add another statement, if that's okay, to that one today, by suggesting to you that the worst thing that could ever happen to you may, in the light of retrospect, end up being the best thing that has ever happened to you. Sounds like a complete contradiction of terms, but I don't think there's a person out there that won't understand or accept that some of the things that we think that Satan planned for evil, we know that God planned them for His glory and for people's good. Now, Joseph was the one who said that, and if anybody was entitled to coin that statement, it would surely have to be him. He went through so many bad things, but he rested in the knowledge that things are not always as they appear to be, and that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you, in retrospect, has been the best thing that has ever happened to you. Think about Joseph's life, the favored son, the one who was given the coat of many colors, ripped off, sold as a slave. Didn't get worse than that. And yet things are not always as they appear to be, and the worst thing that ever happened to him could turn out to be the best, which indeed it did. He became a steward. That was taken away from him, ended up in prison. Once again, things couldn't have got too much worse for him, but he just knew that he could trust God, and that the worst thing that ever happened to him, in the light of retrospect, as we read his story, turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. So he was able, with absolute assurance at the end of the day, to say, even though they planned it for evil, God intended it for good. You see, people, even though Satan may fake it, that he thinks he rules the place, God certainly does, and it's only a matter of time before Satan realizes that. You know, people who believe that God's kingdom is bigger than Satan's, and that even though Satan can do certain things, God still rules, they're the ones who really hold on to verses like Romans 8:28 that says all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. He says all things. That means that the good things, the bad things, the intermediate things, everything works out at the end of the day to the glory of God and the good of people. Now, sometimes, and I'll take you a little bit broader than that, have a look at the disciple Peter. He couldn't have got much lower than he did when he denied Jesus. How low can you go, when Jesus needed you the most and you weren't there for him? And yet, as he met Jesus at the seashore that day, he would have thought the worst thing that ever happened to me was me denying Jesus. But now, many years later, he would look back and say, you know what, guys? Probably the best thing that ever happened to me was me denying Jesus, because the level of personal intimacy with Christ from that failure onwards was far greater than it would have been at the point of any success. So to you out there today, who may feel, man, I've really blown it. To you out there today who feel, man, there's not much hope for me. Remember, things are not always as they appear to be, and that the worst thing that could ever happen to you, either by course of circumstance or by a mistake or a sin that you have committed, can be the best thing that ever happened to you if you do it right. Now, one of the greatest examples would have to be Easter. Worst thing that ever happened to Jesus was they took him and they put him on the cross and they killed him. But the best thing that happened to Jesus was that they put him on a cross and they killed him. Because the best thing is now that Jesus has restored to his people that he loves. Jesus can take his children to heaven. That's far greater than any price he could ever have paid. So the price that he paid was worth it, because he understood that even though the darkness of death was upon him, things are not always as they appear to be. And the worst thing that could ever happen to him actually in the light of retrospect, was to his glory and to our benefit. His is the kingdom, his is the power, and his is the glory today. Won't you revel in that truth, that even so Satan may roar like a lion and deceive like a serpent, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because whatever he does, God is able to take that which he has done and our failures and our mess-ups and turn them for his glory and at the end of the day for our good. Remember that today. Have a fantastic day, people. See you soon. Bye.